of course, I was just a country boy from Cameron, Texas, when I went to Texas A&M in 1950. And I'd helped build the longest bridge in Texas at that time across the Little River in Milam County, capital L, Little River. And that got me interested in engineering. And so I decided to go to Texas A&M, and I became a civil engineer. And then I got a fellowship to get a master's, and I stayed and got the master's. And then I went off and worked in the Air Force and other places. And then I had an opportunity to work at the Asho Road Test, which was the largest civil engineering research project ever undertaken. It was $30 million in 1960 dollars, and it would be about $500 million in current dollars. Then Talbot Huff, who was then chief engineer of highway design at TxDOT, asked me to come back to Texas and help him put that information into a national pavement design method from AASHTO, American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. And I decided to do that. We were from Texas. My wife was from Texas. And although we had offers to go to Purdue and New York City and Chicago, we decided to come back to Texas. And while I was working at TxDOT, I was working at TxDOT in what they call the research program at that time. And Clyde Lee, who was a professor in transportation at UT, I was taking night courses with him and with other professors at UT, and I got within about 4 courses of my PhD, and they asked me if I wanted to come out to the university so I could take some day classes, which I needed, that I couldn't get at night to finish my PhD. And so they hired me as an instructor. And so I went out and finished my PhD, and even though they did not hire their own graduates for permanent professorships at that time, they made an exception for me and for Irv Perry, who was the first black professor ever hired at the University of Texas, who was my office mate. And so I began my career at the University of Texas. That was about 1962. And then at the same time, Clyde Lee got the Center for Highway Research started by meeting with the people at TxDOT, particularly Mr. Huff and Mr. D.C. Greer, who was the longtime chief engineer. And he finally got the first contracts going. Actually, I got my PhD working on one of those projects. It was a project to develop finite element methods for designing slabs and bridges and columns and beam and bridge support elements. And then I got a research project for measuring highway roughness. It became evident at about that time internationally that the average highway user was more interested in how smooth the road was than anything else. And so we bought a profilometer and brought it to Texas and developed a method for evaluating pavements for Texas. And that was my first funded research project at the Center for Highway Research. Other contributions the center has made over the years is we developed the first pavement management system, which is a method of coordinating planning, design, construction, maintenance, rehabilitation, and reconstruction on our highway network to provide the best service for the minimum amount of money to the great citizens of the state of Texas. We started, and it was kind of a crazy idea in those days, but currently every single state in the United States and more than 50 countries around the world use pavement management systems, the concept of which started at the University of Texas and at a Canadian university with a friend of mine, Dr. Ralph Haas. and he and I have worked together on that ever since. That's now expanded to bridge management, maintenance management. So that body of work has been good not only for the state of Texas but for the entire world. My dissertation served as the basis for a design method for concrete pavements that's used many places in the United States, and it was modified and improved a little by Kentucky with, I think they called it Ken Slab. And then in Illinois, one of my students, Dr. Darter, went up there and took our method and modified it to what they called ILLI slab, Illinois slab design. And so it's been used to improve the design and construction of highway slabs all over the United States.